This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to start by welcoming to the show today Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And I did just hear from Lindsay. She said, yes, I'm coming. So whenever she comes in, we'll introduce her into the show. I'm just starting with some laundry and research as I do each week. And this last week, we had a review posted on the Talk4TV site, which was pleasant, I would have to say. Although anonymous, I would really love to know who wrote it. And so I'm going to read this out loud and we'll see if that person is watching, recognizes, and maybe wants to give me a little more information. So the podcast review was a 5-star and it says help. So they titled it Help. I have been startled and impressed by Jack as a Zodiac Killer suspect since 2008 when I first read about him after watching the 2005 and 2007 movies about Zodiac. Please help solve it if he's the guy. If he's Zodiac, don't give up on getting FBI or police to do DNA tests or figure out how to at least investigate Jack more so he can be positively identified or ruled out. I interviewed Robert Ferris, I think is what the person's trying to say, but they wrote Robert Farr is, and wrote an article online destined for Zodiac websites. I didn't think Alan was the Zodiac. So the first part of this is them indicating that they've watched both the movies. And we know in both the movies that they are clearly still trying to state that Arthur Lee Allen is the Zodiac as of 2007 with the Jake Gyllenhaal version of Zodiac. And we all know that he is absolutely not the Zodiac. He has been ruled out. I want to remind everybody, when I was doing the Aphrodite Jones segment of True Crimes on the Zodiac, I was put on the phone with Harry Phillips from 20 on 20. Dennis had called him. He wanted me to actually hear what Harry Phillips had to say in regards to 2000 DNA testing that was done on 8 suspects, one of them being Arthur Lee Allen. And of course, he was ruled out in that DNA. But when I got on the phone with Harry Phillips, I asked him why they didn't test Jack's DNA, because we know that in 2000, Dennis had provided the 2 envelopes. SFPD was sitting on one of those envelopes. I think it took more than a year for them to actually claim to have processed it. And then they stated that somebody accidentally mixed the DNA from under the stamp and under the lip of the envelope. And that created 2 profiles without being able to correctly identify one of the profiles to separate that. They wouldn't know which portion to attribute to the DNA of the Zodiac or to compare to the Zodiac, which I thought was kind of crappy, because even if you have 2 profiles, there are either going to be markers in there that are consistent with the DNA from the Zodiac or there is not. And I know that that can get a little shady but how many people have the same markers, right, at the same time? I don't know what those statistics are. Either way, when I asked Harry Phillips why he hadn't done Jack's DNA, his statement to me was that we knew the other 8 people were not the Zodiac. And he said that in regards to Arthur Lee Allen. So I want everybody to realize this. We've got Hollyweird, somebody high up in media on 20 on 20 that is stating we knew that the other 8 were not the Zodiac, and that included Arthur Lee Allen. So we do know that despite the testing that was done on the envelope incorrectly by the SFPD, we also had heard or been told at some point in time that the Zodiac DNA samples from under the stamps showed multiple donors to that DNA as well. And so that really kind of speaks to what Dennis had thought, which was that Jack would use this spittoon, which he would have other people spit in, and he would use that to actually seal his envelopes and to apply his stamps. So even if that's gross, it's definitely something that we expect to see is this combo DNA stuff that's going on. It's just another way to elude capture or being able to be identified, because we've got so many different hands in the mix as this group does. Oh, hello. I am extremely excited. I'm going to be actually sitting in a graphology presentation, which is the psychological behavioral trading on handwriting. And it is actually going to be done by a psychologist with a doctorate, and it's going to be on the anthrax letters. I'm so excited to enter. I'm going to have my notepad out, quickly taking notes to every personality trait that they find in this handwriting. And then we can see how that compares to Jack and the Zodiac. So I did also get a response. We talked last week in regards to the My Name Is cipher having been a solve that Casbah has gotten. He did actually send me a video on how he came to this solve. So I've blown up the URL down here so that you can see that nice and big with the red line underneath it. You can watch that video yourself. I didn't fully understand it, but it was interesting to note that he didn't treat the Taurus symbols like a Taurus symbol, while he treated the Aries symbol like an Aries symbol. And I know last week we discussed all of the different zodiac characters that were, or signs that were being slipped in and out as potential clues of the zodiac communications. So you can take a look at that. He did actually come up with Texarkana Phantom, as if the zodiac was trying to tie himself back to Texarkana. And we do know that that's something that I believe is potentially Jack's work as well. Anything to add there, Nolan?
No, I had to get a stool. I was standing up. I'm sorry. But no, so it's a conference that you're going to?
Yeah, it's an American handwriting analysis conference, and the psychologist is going to be discussing the anthrax letters and the personality.
Oh, awesome!
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm extremely excited about that.
Where is it?
It'll be by Zoom.
Oh, Zoom. Okay, maybe I can join in, or at least check in on it.
It's gonna be right after my podcast. You're gonna be on your way to court.
Okay.
But I will, like I said, I'll take heavy notes. I probably will have a recorded video of it as well, and see if I can't run some of what she has to say on the show. So we'll go from there.
Okay. Good. Now, yeah, it's been a couple of years since I read that definitive anthrax book, which basically says it's still unsolved.
Of course it is.
Disagrees with that poor guy that committed suicide. What was his name?
Bruce Ivins. Yeah. Bruce Ivins.
Yeah. The book says no. I mean, he was a suspect, but he wasn't the dude.
Exactly.
It's a good book.
Well, and to take note, I know that she's going to do letters. I'm hoping that she also works on the envelopes, because I think the envelopes are more representative of the author's handwriting, because the letters themselves were written in all caps, and they attempted to stay as strict copybook as possible, of course, in order to deter anybody from identifying the handwriting. But they did not maintain that level of disguise on the envelopes. So it'll be interesting. And maybe she even has some clearer images that I haven't seen before. I just don't know what to expect. I'm like Will Ferrell on Back to School.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. Is it lace? Is it satin? Is it something I've never seen before? Well, I had Tony Daniele get back with me in regards to the Christmas card. This is what he wanted to add after the presentation and our discussion of it. He said the card was a secret PAL style that Zodiac had sent to the Chronicle during his killing spree in 1968 and 69. Inside the card was a carpenter's pencil and U.S. postal keys. Now, I hadn't heard about the pencil before, but I think he was meaning pencil flashlights. So I'm going to go further as we get into this statement.
Now, who's Tony Daniel or Daniele?
Daniele. I know that he is somebody that's either followed or studied the case. He skipped across me, friended me on Facebook, and every now and again he gives me a little bit of information that he is aware of in regards to the case. And this was his additive to the Christmas card. He says, Tom Voigt, the man admittedly obsessed with the Zodiac since childhood and webmaster of ZodiacKiller.com, firmly believes a recently found 1990 Christmas card postmarked from Eureka is authentic. I have been told it is without a doubt Zodiac, Voigt said Saturday. If it's a fake, it's the greatest fake I've ever seen. Voigt, who greeted a packed house at a screening of the new movie Zodiac at the Century 14 in Vallejo on Thursday, was incensed that the correspondence was discredited by Lloyd Cunningham, a forensic document examiner. Now, of course, I've come up against Lloyd Cunningham, you guys, and you all know what I think about him.
Yeah, you talked about him.
Cunningham said in Saturday's San Francisco Chronicle that he believes the card was done by a Zodiac imitator. The designer of the card was George Schill, a contract artist with American Greetings Card Company Corporation for 38 years, who informed me that all the imagery on the card, including the snowman, is exactly as he created it. In other words, nothing was added to the card outer by the Zodiac Killer. George, who retired several years aged, remarked, I did create the card as shown. This correspondence was discovered on March 3rd, 2007 by editorial assistant Daniel King of the San Francisco Chronicle among some photo files. The 2007 Zodiac movie, directed by David Fincher and based on the Robert Graysmith book, was released in the USA the day before this correspondence was unearthed. On March 2nd, the movie had its premiere in Los Angeles and California on March 1st. The card inner contained a photocopy of 2 postal keys supported by a magnet keychain or pencil flashlight. However, there was no added text on the card from its sender. But we did have the envelope that was filled out. And the envelope is consistent with the writing of the Zodiac, the Scorpion letters, and several other communications that we've looked at. And the timing is kind of correct, too, because we see all of this hustle and bustle to create new communications during 90 and 91.
So from the time it was sent to the time it was made public, how long a period was that?
It was postmarked 1990, and it was supposedly stuffed somewhere, left and forgotten for
like
all
7
of
years, right?
17 years.
Wow.
Because it's 2007. So, but I'm screaming, and this is great. It sounds to me like he basically quoted an article or a newspaper clipping in regards to this information. My contention here is that it's a great media ploy for the movie, right? I mean, it's really no different than the Zodiac watch coming out during 68 and 69 while the Zodiac begins doing his thing. It's a way to sell.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. So was this a concerted effort? Right. And by the San Francisco Chronicle, no less, right? So we're right back into the hands of the people who have been making money off of the media in this story for so long. So I'm not going to discredit that they didn't find it in 2007. I just feel like it's awfully funny or very coincidental that at that same time, that letter happened to be found the day after the release of the Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning. Okay. How are y'all?
We're doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
Great.
Good.
Busy as
Friday.
hell.
It's Friday. All over again.
I have 1 court appearance already, 1 more to go.
I have the conference, the graphology conference. I'm not sure if you missed that, Lindsay, but I'm actually going to be sitting in on a graphological reading by a psychologist in regards to the anthrax letters. So I'm
oh my gosh,
shoulder dance.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So we left off last week on the first communication that we were sharing with you in the Scorpion letters, a series of taunting threats, it says. I've gone through these letters again, and I really can't detect the threat to John Walsh. I don't see any interest in his son in these, but I also understand that it looks like we're missing at least 2 communications and pages from the communications that we are being publicly shown. And once again, the John Walsh of America's Most Wanted, who is now working in concert with the FBI, didn't want the FBI working on his son's case, thought he could do, this on his own. But I really think that was because he didn't want his skeletons being popped open by the FBI, but then turns around and allows the FBI to state that these letters are not from the Zodiac. And I'm sorry, you guys, we're going to read through these. And I'm telling you what, if this isn't Zodiac, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Well, Scorpion is like Scorpio, Zodiac sign. I'm a Scorpio.
Exactly.
But anyway.
Yeah. So we talked about Libra.
To the Christmas card.
What's that?
The artist that made the card says that's the original one that he made, so it wasn't altered. That's funny that Jack, if it was Jack, came across. You must have liked the little jackrabbit by the snowman, and like
it was fitting.
Card and used it. Yeah.
Well, and the Halloween card was a jack-o'-lantern. We've got a Christmas card with a jackrabbit, and it's saying "Guess who?" You know, I'm still here.
It's all there.
And think about the pencil flashlight that was included in it, because the Zodiac wrote a letter to the FBI basically stating that he had taped a flashlight to the barrel of his gun, and that was how he was able to hit his mark so consistently.
Oh, yeah.
And that would have been a pencil flashlight. And Dennis said that this was an actual thing that Jack did when hunting, was tape a pencil flashlight onto his gun. So it's all kind of
Lake Herman Road, for sure, he used that.
Correct.
And maybe Blue Rock Springs, too. But definitely Lake Herman Road.
It's to blind them. Yeah, it's to blind them so they can't see him. But he says if you point, Jack told Dennis that once you apply the flashlight to the top of the barrel of the gun and you point, there's always a dead spot or a black circle in the center of the actual light that's coming out of the flashlight. And if you point that black circle where is dead space on your target, then it's wherever that is pointing at, your bullet is going to basically go. So he even coached Dennis on how to accurately use a flashlight taped to a gun as a sight.
So it's like a scope almost.
Basically, yeah. Shoot for the dead center and of the flashlight image and where the black spot is, and you're hitting bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this letter that we were on says, I am your worst nightmare coming true. My true identity is not known to you yet, and hopefully will not be for a long time. Your show is more exciting, interesting, and factual than any shit-falled movie or series. I have recently moved into New Jersey and began a new crime spree. I am currently responsible for 23 unsolved crimes, ranging from arson to burglary to sabotage, homicide, and occasionally everything in between. I strongly advise that you keep this letter and start a rather large file, since you will be hearing from me again. I have enclosed a rather difficultly encoded message containing information that will prove rather useful to you. This code took a lot of time and effort to develop in hopes that it will defeat FBI and CIA code breakers. Anything you wish to tell me or ask me can be conveyed to me on your show. Now, I just want to mention, you guys, is that they say that you can't really solve these ciphers if you don't have the key. So the person that the cipher is being sent to really doesn't have a chance in hell if it's one that you've made up on your own of solving it, unless you have the key. So I have to believe that he has also at some point in time sent the key to these individuals in order for them to actually work these messages out. Why spend all the time, the heartbreaking and time-consuming energy to put these ciphers together if nobody can ultimately crack them? And did they probably say who he was? I don't think so either.
Yes, and just at first glance, the letter looks similar to Zodiac letters. The writing, the slants, whatnot. And
it's very consistent with the Christmas card envelope. And they're both very close in time frame. If this is in fact done in 1991, we really won't know because they withheld it from us.
Yeah.
I almost thought that this was something that was done in 2001 as a follow-up, because we know that in 2000 that John Walsh did the episode on the America's Most Wanted with I want to say it was with Bart Baggett and Tom Voigt on the Zodiac case. At the same time, Jack is asking for John Walsh's book. We have the 23 victims in the Princeton area from the anthrax mailings. We had the postal keys, which I know Harriet claims that the codes went back to Princeton, New Jersey. I don't know the truth of that. But again, there's just, so many people making up stories along with these keys. And I think that, and I'm not sure what time frame Tom Voigt claims to have also researched or investigated these postal keys, but he claimed they went back to somebody in Eureka, and the card was actually postmarked from Eureka. So maybe those postal keys were from Eureka. I just don't know.
Well, and even
what year was the Eureka postcard?
1990.
What year was that? Wow.
1990.
Yeah, I was up there in '88. working for the Indian Legal Service in Eureka.
Nice.
Living in Arcata.
All right. So what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, the way he wrote
sorry.
Scorpion, it looks like he went over it a few times to make it, bold. So and he does the same thing, like you said, on the Christmas card and on the Halloween card too.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what he had going on here.
It's like a felt pen or a Sharpie sometimes. Or but it is thicker.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, so he says his identity is not known yet, no doubt due to the show airing and it still being an unsolved case on the Zodiac. We know that Jack requested John Walsh's book. It lists crimes which are really kind of consistent with the Zodiac saying, I'll commit my murders. They shall look like routine robberies, killings of anger, and a few fake accidents, etc., which is kind of really linguistically close to this line of, what he says here in the Scorpion letters, and now I've lost it. Arson, burglary, sabotage, homicide, and occasionally everything in between.
Yep.
Very similar statements there. The threat that there will be more is the only threat that I can actually detect in these communications, and the more factor is something the Zodiac has been saying since way back in the lipstick killings in 1945. Now, accepting responsibility for crimes in New Jersey, Zodiac sent a Christmas card. We've already talked about that. Zodiac was known to predict his crimes in the future. This may have been a ploy to say where he was going next if this was actually received in 1991, or if it was received in 2001 and it was just discussing what he had done. We won't know the actual truth of this matter because it was withheld. And it, again, doesn't say anything about John Walsh's son, so I'm assuming that this author is not contacting John Walsh over his son with these letters. He's trying to get his story told.
Oh, yeah.
But this went to John Walsh, though, right? I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I believe that he wanted to give him a heads up and let him know, what was going on. So when he covered these cases, he knew exactly which way to go and which way to portray the story.
Right. Well, it says, I put in here the superiority complex over the FBI and CIA isn't a far stretch from the superiority complex that the Zodiac had on any of the other law enforcement during his crimes. There's a typical prove statement, as Jack is so desperate to do, the splitting of the words in useful and the hyper-fussy use of rather that we see with Jack and the Zodiac. So a lot of the linguistics, I got goosebumps just saying that, you guys.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is very, very reminiscent of Jack and Zodiac. And we've got the keys. So the key has been a huge theme throughout this entire procession, leading back to P.O. boxes, which we're going to hear more about that in these letters as well. So some of the things that I noted in regards, and this is the cipher that came with that said, hi, remember me. Now, if that isn't a solid follow-up statement to the Guess Who card for Christmas, I don't know what is. It keeps being the same type of taunt. So we also have that being said in the Tim Miller, hello, remember me, in the Atlanta, Georgia murders. Like, it just continues to occur. These are the same taunting writings as the Zodiac and Black Dahlia. Jack page 1 claims 23 victims. Shitfalled is an unusual phrasing noted in the Zodiac and Jack, whereby he puts 2 to 3 words together as a single word. The word rather is a phrase that was very common in Zodiac writings. Hyphenation usage, which is something that we've shown over and over again. We have the oversized K in comparison to the rest of the middle zone letters, and that is definitely a defiant letter where, psychologically speaking, the person is defiant against authority, has, outbursts, and can become probably hostile at any minute. We have the unusual spacing in words that's just like Zodiac and Jack. He says, your worst nightmare, referencing to he is going to be killing. His true identity is not known. That's the Zodiac ploy. Your show is more exciting, interesting, and factual, reference to the show of Zodiac. And I think we see that was also typed up in the Patricia House letter that was in regards to Sherry Jo Bates way back in the 60s. We have crimes ranging from arson to burglary to sabotage, is listing the styles of killings just like the Zodiac did. And he says, start a file, you'll be hearing from me. And that's something that the Black Dahlia said and the Zodiac. Difficulty encoded message. Zodiac moved into New Jersey and began a new crime spree. Reference to wherever he goes, it is attributed to a separate crime. So he literally, I think, psychologically separates himself for each of these crime sprees into that particular killer, yet it is still all one person, or as we've been starting to see, the belief that there is a group that's involved and that possibly the author is just reporting whatever it is that the group has done through their communication.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why we have so many suspects.
So this cipher right here, did it accompany the letter?
Yes, to my knowledge.
Interesting.
And it's completely different sets of symbols. But one of the things that I was told in regards to this is this has a lot of Navy flag symbols in it. This being true, Jack was also in the Navy, so he would know these flags and these symbols and these signs.
And if I'm not mistaken, John Walsh's father was in the Navy. I'll have to go back in my book at home and check. But yeah,
I think you might be right. I feel like that was yeah, we'll let you follow up on that one. Let's see. This may be where Jack got the post office box keys that were sent to law enforcement. This may be the direct link to anthrax through Zodiac 1990 Christmas card. New Jersey has several links of interest for Jack, including Albert Einstein. Reference to getting over on the FBI and CIA. That is just like Lipstick Killer in the Zodiac. You can contact me through your show, Desire to be Made Public, which I found in Zodiac, Black Dahlia, Lipstick, the finale letter to Tim Miller, and Anthrax. So we start to see this press here as Jack is getting older, starting to phase out of killing, and there's this push to get the story told by the communicator of all of these messages.
So the cipher has a lot of like Egyptian symbolism in it. And
I thought so too.
The people at NASA were fascinated by the Egyptian old religion. And like the names of their missions are all Egyptian shit.
Oh,
well,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, in these codes,
Orion,
and
Artemis,
all the psychological
all that's Egyptian.
stuff.
Hold on, you guys are talking over each other.
Psychological information and the ciphers and things, it goes all the way back to that time. That's where they got it from. That's where they get this from. Yeah. I
was studying symbols there for a while to see if I could locate a particular set of symbols that were being used. I did skip across the Egyptian symbols. I didn't actually find anything that contained all the symbols that are in here. But again, that's what makes the code so unique and unsolvable unless you have the key. So I believe that the FBI either had the key or John Walsh himself was also handed the key. And of course, we're being presented this cipher because they know that without the key, there's no way for us to solve it. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's see. This is the second communicate. Well, I don't know if it's the second. I believe there's approximately 5 to 6. It says a series. It talks about 5 different ciphers. So I'm going to assume that there's at least 5 different communications to John Walsh. This happens to be another one. And this one says, and to me, it looks like it's page 2 of a communication, but I don't know that. Let's see. Okay, so there's the third page. So it looks like it's page 2 of 3, and we're missing the first page. And why not show us the first page? What's in it, FBI and John Walsh, that you don't want us to make a connection of? This letter starts out, and I hope you guys will agree with me as I begin to read this, that this is not a complete sentence, which means that there was another page that began and had more information on it. It says intricate.
The first page. It's terrible.
What's that?
Why withhold it? They're hiding something.
Yeah. It says intricate and difficult to recopy onto these cards. What is? So we only got a half a sentence. My style of handwriting on these cards is very much altered and controlled in order to throw off graphologists. He knows about graphology. Which is exactly, the Zodiac making the claim that he knew about fingerprints and covering his fingerprints and covering his handwriting and using a different hand in the Atlanta, Georgia writings. Like he over and over again, we're being told how he can con people with his communications. He says, I would much rather communicate with you with letters sent between us, but you and your over anxious associates would try to nail me even if I used a P.O. box. There's our P.O. box reference. And we've seen this over and over again. For a return address, this would create a rather messy situation since I do not plan to be taken alive, if at all, and I truly believe in the use of superior firepower. This creates a problem for our communication since the only way I can communicate with you is by letter and possibly phone, and your only safe medium in both of our best interests is your informative and helpful show. Consider this your second and definitely last chance, since I will soon start collecting bodies, collecting slaves. I think that runs pretty tandem.
The afterlife. Yeah, that's very similar.
The Halloween
and he says,
card,
start collecting bodies for you, he says. So he's telling John Walsh, I'm going to start collecting bodies for you to prove that this is not a prank. Hopefully for you, no one will expose themselves to me as an easy target. Zodiac 101, ding, ding. For my ever-growing anger before I get a chance to hear from you, I now realize with many hundreds of hours, we're going to stop that there, and I'm going to tell you some of the things that I find interesting in here. So we have helpful and informative show, and this is a Zodiac's general statements in the Patricia Houts letter and to Tom Voigt, always referencing something in the media, the confession that these letters are painstakingly done in order to disguise from graphology, which explains why we see missing attributes and added attributes. The finale letter, the Zodiac, Jack Terrence's multiple styles of writing, says he would communicate by letters, but they would track it back to him through the P.O. box, which is a reference connecting the Christmas card through the post office box keys. Also, a statement is similar to those made by many of the communications in these different crime sprees. He says it's messy, and he uses rather again. He incorrectly spells very with 2 R's, which is that double letter spelling error that we've seen so often. And it's now attributed to disguise. So he says, start the collecting of bodies, and the statement that hopefully no one makes themselves an easy target, and an ever-growing anger, which is definitely a statement from the Zodiac, whose anger.
And I want to stop you there, too, on that last statement that you just said. That is his way of controlling John Walsh and letting him know, like, if anyone gets information that they're not supposed to get, or they are on a trail that they're not supposed to go on, then it's going to be somebody in your circle that's going to be taken out. And I can show you, and I will show you, and that, this is how I'm going to control you, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to only, oh, sorry, that was a weird noise. You're only going to talk about in your show such and such. If you go towards this way, then it's going to be head cut off.
I do understand the threat that if
so
you
basically, he's trying to influence the content of Walsh's show and what Walsh his actions. Yeah.
Well, but I don't think that he actively did, because I don't recall shows, and not that I've watched every single America's Most Wanted there is, but I don't recall shows where John Walsh was addressing any of this man's intentions on his show, because otherwise he would have had to have told us about these letters when they occurred. I mean,
I know it was all secret, I believe.
Yeah, so if he isn't playing into the hand of this individual, then where is these 23 bodies? I could not find 23 murders, unsolved murders in New Jersey during the 1990s. The only thing I really saw that was substantial in the New Jersey area was the anthrax mailings, which encompassed something like 17 people or 20-some people, which was consistent. So who and where are these 20? And he's saying, I'm giving this to you as proof. So they must have been able to track down either the work that he had done, or he did commit some type of crime to prove up that these letters were truly from this individual. I just don't know where to go with, them withholding information from us and not making it clear what was involved with all of these letters.
Well, and another example would be, not necessarily covering up for the Zodiac, but for his associates as well, which we do know. John Walsh was very well known to cover a lot of the cartel, a lot of the Iran Contras, people that went on the run, many people that were on the run in New York, and up that way, as far as like there's big names that he covered that I'm pretty sure the Zodiac knew, and they communicated with, because I think that he was a part of all these crazy murder sprees, in the 1990s and the 80s and early 2000s.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the Iran affair, because Bush was implicated in that and pardoned the last person who was on trial for it, so that his name didn't get brought up, because he likely could have been indicted for it. So we have John Walsh covering the information and people involved in it, but I don't know that he ever covered the Bushes.
Well, how about this? Bush also pardoned Otis Toole from the death penalty.
Yes, he did. And Otis O'Toole was supposedly the number one suspect on John Walsh's son's murder.
Yep.
But O'Toole him and Henry Lee Lucas, we now know, is one of those gigantic jokes. I think that law enforcement, or the Texas Rangers, really thought that they could close 200 and some murders across the United States that I believe are associated to this group, by just simply having O'Toole and Lucas admit to these murders, and then providing them the information that they needed to be able to look like they knew what they were talking about and had inside information that nobody else would have. Yeah. But it was really just being fed to them. So how Toole gets pardoned,
it was a crock of crap.
Oh yeah. And then Toole, even in the courtroom, Toole literally said on camera, like, "This is a joke. They gave me the information. I was told to read the pages that they give me. Like, this is not me. I'm trying to tell y'all." And he would just like laugh and giggle about it. So it kind of was like a joke, and people really didn't believe him, but he really was telling the truth.
Well, that's his low-level mentality. He would have, I would think that the anxiety of the whole entire mess, because his maturity level was so low.
Yeah.
If you
he did have a very low IQ. Yeah.
His last name was properly fitting for him, Toole.
Yeah, he was a tool. I know, and that's another irony of it. It's just crazy. It's wild.
Well, here's the third page to this communication. It says, and of course we finished off, I now realize, with many hundreds of hours of mind-racking experimentation with my complex ciphers, that my first one that I sent you was comparatively simple to my second, third, fourth, and now temporarily final cryptograph system. So that would indicate to me at least 5 communications, and that's if every single communication came with a cipher. If he sent communications that didn't include ciphers, there could be possibly more communications to John Walsh. He says, "I have been encoding useful information for your use and have done it fairly, since all my ciphers can be decoded simply once the limited patterns and systems are discovered. I have enclosed another cipher for you to deal with. See you in hell, amigo, Scorpion." Woo. So,
hell, amigo?
See you in hell, amigo.
Wow. Well, that's kind of Hispanic lingo, and John Walsh was very familiar with that Hispanic lingo because of how Florida had a lot of Cubans and a lot of Venezuelans and a lot of
Mexicans,
like, and that's literally the main portal that went all the way up to the United States with the Iran Contra affair. So,
quick question: the eye in Scorpion there's like a little ink blotch below it. Do you attribute any significance to that?
Well, we've seen a lot of that doodling and blood dropping imitation in the Zodiac letters. The
Maybe it's supposed to be
dripping.
like a drop of blood or something. Yeah.
We had the dripping pen with blood. We had the doodles that Graysmith actually had removed from a letter that he had published in his first book. In his second book, he had those little doodles removed. But we saw that also on the Titwillow communication from the Zodiac, where he drew these little circles. They almost look like little sperm. They're little circles with little tails on them that he was, or basically like he was just maybe even having a thought process where he was doodling while he was doing it. But it almost looks like a stinger. It almost looks like the tip of the scorpion's tail at the bottom of that eye.
That's what I thought.
Right. So I really don't know what to make of it other than, we've seen the doodling. We've seen the heavy ink blotting.
Yeah, it's hard to decipher it, but it has to have some sort of significance. He does everything for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so the page, this is the page 2 of 3 of 3, is a complex cipher, reference to 5 ciphers and cryptograph systems, each one becoming even harder. Zodiac accounts for 3, and the final 2 are sent as Scorpion. So I had wondered at this point in time if that wasn't the entire 5, and that when he stated that he had sent 5, that they were ciphers he had sent in other areas. But I want to say that we also had 4 ciphers from the Zodiac, and now we've got 2 here, so that wouldn't make sense. So he must have sent 5 individual ciphers to John Walsh. Yeah. He does put word useful. Go ahead.
Is there any way to put pressure on whoever to get that first page, or to find out if it exists? It has to exist, because if the second page is a broken sentence.
And then
so
and then like in the Adam Moss case file, that was the first page in there. It was they just put they just put those pieces in there.
Yeah. Well, and it's like that person who gave the review on Jack as the Zodiac, indicating that we should put pressure on the FBI and law enforcement to do the DNA testing on Jack. We know that the FBI is in possession of a second envelope, and they I would hope not make the same mistake that they did with the first one, where SFPD combined the DNA samples from under the lip of the envelope and the stamp. But with the FBI still in a possession of one of Jack's envelopes, there should be testing on this. And why didn't the FBI do this? I know that the agents that were working with Dennis spent lots of hours with Dennis, tracking down lots of leads, following up on lots of evidence that Dennis gave him. Why in the world did they not do the DNA testing? They traveled all the way down to Doris Reynolds after I found out that she was willing to speak, and I wanted to get hers and Danny Reynolds' DNA because Dennis thought that there was a possibility that Danny Reynolds' DNA would have been found on these envelopes. The FBI claims that they went down there and found her, basically incoherent in some type of a rest home, and that she was unable to speak, and they couldn't simply just get Danny Reynolds' DNA to make a comparison, which I think is BS, because he's been in and out of jail all of his life, and he was likely in prison or in jail at that moment. Either way, if you're going to go all the way down there to meet up with Doris Reynolds,
at least steal a cigarette butt or something, whether they smoked or not, or a bottle of water with their lips on it.
It's more my point that if you're going to make that trip and use those resources to go down there and do that, why not test that last envelope? Why not get the palm print from Sonoma County PD or Sheriff's Department that was given by Dennis to Officer Brown out there? Why not get that palm print and do those comparisons? That officer, to my knowledge, was never capable of doing a comparison of the fingerprints and palm print of Jack, which we have, to the palm print at SFPD, because they just weren't playing the game with anybody. So putting the pressure on them is something Dennis evidently attempted to do, and it was a huge failure, epic failure. And why? And why would Harry Phillips say we knew that the other 8 people were not the Zodiac? So what are you saying? You know that Jack is? Or you're afraid that investigating him may prove that he was? And this is going to lead back to people who are very much still alive that could be harmed in regards to it.
Well, it's the same concept with Epstein and them not releasing things, because there's certain things in there that will implicate a lot of people, and they don't want it to, people to know. It's the same. I feel like it's the same thing with the Zodiac. There were so many, people involved in this group and who knew about it, whether they participated or not, they still knew about it and withheld information, it would implicate a lot of people. And so
Right.
they just want to keep playing games and, act like they're doing something about it, and they're not, and when
Yeah.
they're not, because they already know who it is.
There were contacts in high places that
Yep.
knew
Correct.
about it
And he
and
knew a
helped
lot of big
conceal it.
people. Yeah.
So here we have this next cipher that also came along with this 3-page letter. And, oh, well, I needed to finish up, obviously. Line 8 was the word useful. Spacing is consistent with Zodiac and Jack Terrence. And the see you in hell amigo reference is, again, I don't know if he's saying amigo to make it look like this, that he might be Hispanic, but we know that there were at least a couple times he pretended to be a faction or a different culture than American, but we can see by the use of the language here that English is this person's first language. So definitely probably not Hispanic would be my guess.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, no,
amigo
it's
too.
definitely-
It's a term. It's Spanish, but but it's also a Texan term. Texas was part of Mexico, and
That's what I was
think it
just going to
relates back
say.
a little bit to your ass is a dragon.
Yeah.
Because they're like cowboys.
Yep.
Right.
But they're riding. One's riding a donkey.
Donkey.
The other's riding
A
a
donkey.
dragon.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's the
Very
amigo
true.
is kind of like a clue back to that, because that's the method they like. Jack or whoever the group is, they like to give clues to past events and past cards and past communications.
100%.
Everything's connected.
That's how I put it all together, going through these communications with people popping up out of the woodworks, being anonymous, sending me new communications and different crime sprees, and then falling off the face of the earth. I always had to wonder why. Why did you come in just to disappear? I mean, did you really want me to solve this, or are you leaving it up to me to figure everything out? And really, it was just about putting the communications together and determining if the handwriting was the same, which we have included the Scorpion letters in that handwriting examination that was done way back. And I want to say we were in like the 900s. We are now in 2,553 slides of this presentation. So more than halfway back, we did the handwriting comparison of all of the letters so that I could get that done and out of the way for people. Yeah. Well, that brings us to a letter that Lindsay has sent to me, and this comes out of the John Walsh files, correct?
Yep.
So this was an interesting letter. It says, congratulations on your, oh goodness, I guess I should have, your poor police diplomacy. So congratulations on your poor police diplomacy. Adam Walsh suffered, not you. Adam was dead only 2 to 3 days. Forensics know a dead, oh gosh, I probably should have typed this up ahead of time because it's going to take some time to cipher. A dead decomposed in water, especially when it's a bloody mess, being fed on by water creatures. So this individual is probably just trying to comment. Have you read this letter, Lindsay, for what it's worth? And what did you find that you thought was interesting about it?
Just how much information they knew, and how it was talking about the police, and their dirty work. And then I believe it also talks about investigating certain people and the distribution of certain things. Let's see,
who was the letter to?
Well, it looks like it went to the police department because it says congratulations on your poor police diplomacy. So I think what I'll do is we're at the end of our segment right now. We've got about a minute left. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and type this up so that I can easily read it for the viewers. And then we can revisit this particular letter and the other one that you sent me next week. How about that, Lindsay?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that literally, unless you guys have anything to add, puts us pretty much at the end of the segment. Well, I wanted to tell you
a little information I learned of when I was researching Ghislaine Maxwell's father, and his suspicious death and all that. So apparently he was
I
funded
don't know if we
by-
have time for that because we're literally counting down. We have less than 30 seconds. If you can get it out in less than 30.
Okay, yeah. So he was funded by Israel, and Israel pretty much had a hand in all of his media stuff like that. So in other words, when he died, it was passed down to Epstein.
Oh,
All
very
their dirty
interesting.
tricks.
All
and
right, so I
all
want to
that.
pick that up next week then. Everybody have a
Yep.
wonderful weekend. Thank you both for being here. We will see you guys next Friday.
See ya.
Bye. Have a good weekend, everybody.
You too.
Oh,